Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, I want to go and talk about a somewhat intriguing topic that a lot of folks have been kind of curious on, myself included, and as well kind of why the Xbox is actually somehow kind of winning this big console back and forth fight, and as well kind of why there's so much of a big supply of, say, the Xbox Series S's, when all the other various consoles, the PlayStations, the Xbox Series X's, are basically always out of stock. So we have a lot of things to go talk about, a lot of intriguing things to go and cover. We have a really cool article as well to kind of go and cover up too as well, and kind of use as a framework too, and kind of just give you guys that big, deep diving question on, is the Xbox Series S even good? Why is every other console so hard to go get? And as well, what's kind of going on with everything in the world? Because it is kind of cool and intriguing to go and see on almost every other region. It's been kind of going to have a huge, massive spike, especially when it comes to Microsoft and Xbox. And in all honesty, it kind of seems like they're almost somewhat ingenious when it comes to this whole design too as well. So, a lot of things to go talk about, a lot of things to go and pretty much dive on into, and as well, make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on, as well for the brand new PlayStation 5 giveaway. Amazon links down below for the PS5 Digital Console Controller. Twitter and Twitch stream as well, link down below. Sign up for that Weeble, sign up for that Coinbase, and I appreciate you guys all so much for stopping on by, and let's dive in this video. So as I mentioned, we kind of have a really big focus as of recently, especially in the Xbox Series S, but it also kind of has the hand in turn where people don't mind the Xbox Series S. I think they seem cool. I would actually be down to go buy one, and I probably will go buy one as soon as the active lower price is a little bit more consistent, because we also happen to see them going on sale. We saw my lows for like $250. We've seen some really cool bundles even throughout this week, and overall it is a pretty good console. Anyone who's had a chance to get the Xbox Series S has been pretty happy with it, but the one big thing is I'm someone who also wants to have more of the Xbox Series X, and as well, I'd also like my PS5, because as you guys can see, like literally right off in this corner over here, it's an awesome console. So we have an article over here from Tech Writer kind of talking about the fact of why the Xbox Series S is just so much easier to go and buy, to make and procure, I guess, and then everything else when it comes to the Xbox Series X and PS5. So basically, Xbox budget consoles almost always in stock, but why and how? So let's kind of do the little deep dive for this one. So it's been about a year and a half since their release, and both the Xbox Series X and PS5 are still hard to go and find. Although thankfully we have seen a lot of Xbox Series X's this past week, and a lot of folks are getting them, so major congrats if you guys finally got one. PlayStation 5, though, still are quite hard. So considering the impact of the global supply chains issues and chip shortages have had on the console production, this is hardly a surprise, as both consoles are high in demand. And yet, somehow, the Xbox Series S has managed to evade the same troubles of its more expensive counterparts, given how it's almost always seen to be in stock at major retailers. So this is also kind of intriguing thing I just kind of covered, too, is that the Xbox Series S has actually been on sale, too, as well, multiple times. We saw a $250, which is insane, for a next-gen console when it came to Wish. And when it came to other various places, too, like we even covered as of, like, yesterday or 2 days ago, there's even, like, brand new extra controllers being added on, with also Fortnite and also Rocket League bundles, and just pretty much everything seems pretty big. But the one biggest news is that now, for both in Europe and the United States, literally everyone keeps on still buying it. Now, it's always still in stock, and the production has been doing really well, but this basic little baby console is the big reason on why the Xbox is actually somewhat keeping up with the PlayStation 5. So, basically, if, like I said, if you're anything like me, you've always been wondering why the Xbox Series S appears to be significantly easier to go buy than everything else. In all honesty, I'm kind of got an article to go talk about, so props to you guys. So, I guess you guys haven't had a chance to see, the Xbox Series S is actually a bunch more easier to obtain than the Xbox Series X, or in various the PlayStation 5, because it actually has a whole different manufacturing process. We've covered this up in previous videos, but it's kind of like, let's put it this way. If it's really, really hard to go get a really high quality Wagyu steak, like $200 steak, you obviously you're not making as much. There's a big scarcity to it, and it's harder to make. Same thing too as well when it comes to, let's say, marbling. It's a lot easier to go make a plastic countertop versus a marble countertop. It's a lot more heavier, it's hard to go cut out. You literally have to cut out the earth, and I'm sure you guys can probably understand how that's kind of just hard. It's just on various different products are easier or whatever. And when it comes to the Xbox Series S, they actually use slightly less intense internals, so it just makes it easier to go make. That's why they're always available, because it's just completely two different processes. Like, you don't have to have like certain things. So basically, as you guys can read on for this one, each pack of semi-custom AMD accelerated processing units, or APUs, that consist of an octa-core Zen 2 base CPU and RDNA 2 GPU, which apply the consoles with the power needed to push 4K resolution at 120 frames per second. So, according to the industry insider Daniel Ahmed, who we've actually covered up on the channel before, these powerful chipsets make most the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X's very hard to go and manufacture, mainly because it's just using a completely different architecture and it's just hard to go make, while the Xbox Series S is a little more on the chiller side. So obviously you guys know about all the semiconductors, like we're hearing about the neon issues now, and all these other various internal issues, plastic issues, shipping issues, delivery issues, and everything of the sort all put together. And now we also even have the better combination too, and why is it actually kind of smart that Xbox did this? So basically, for when it comes to the production systems behind the Xbox Series S, is actually significantly less resource heavy. So much so that the Xbox system architect Andrew Gooseman confirmed to Eurogamer that its chipset was even more simple and even more cost effective to produce than that of even the previous last-gen console, which is some crazy news to see that basically right now it's a better, easier, and cheaper and even more powerful console than even the last Xbox Series X. And that one line alone is insane to go and see, because that's basically saying like, yeah, this PlayStation 5 is better, cheaper, and more efficient than the PS4. Now, as of right now, that is not true, and the Xbox Series X as well is obviously not more cheaper to produce, but the one intriguing thing to see is that the Xbox Series S, as we just covered, is way cheaper, way more efficient, and just a better overall efficiency run. Now, I do think there's some pretty big things as well, mainly because it does kind of seem like maybe long term it won't be as effective, because you think like if it's kind of like soft locked on specs, it might make it harder for future games to have issues or be consistent with it, you know what I mean? So basically it's actually intriguing to note, because all these really big people, we've actually talked about this before, we made a video on it, where the Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S actually have been winning the console fight. And this is more so mainly regards to the Xbox Series S, although as you guys have probably seen this past week, there's been Xbox Series X's pretty much up the wazoo, pretty much everywhere. So it's actually really nice, because while they're probably not making the most money, we always go and stress on this channel, the Xbox Game Pass is the more intriguing topic. That's what Xbox wants. They want people buying and keeping that monthly subscription, because it doesn't matter if, say, PlayStation sells a $70 game if you have someone on a Game Pass subscription for 6 months. At the end of the day, Microsoft is making more money, if you kind of go and think about the end-all be-all for that. So as well, the Microsoft is also understandably still quite secretive about the differences in how the Xbox Series X and S are made, although I would love to have more of a deep dive on it. But even taking a look at their tech specifications, we can see that the Xbox Series S's APUs is half the size of that of the Xbox Series X and contains half as many transistors, 8 million versus 15.3 million, they could translate. So that basically means the APU feature in the Xbox Series S could be twice as easy to produce, which is why they're probably making so many of them, and why they're always consistently on shelves, or available on Amazon, Walmart, etc., and just overall, it's kind of nice. Like, I'd rather, I'm not the biggest fan of it. I'm always one more like, I want the slightly better specs for long term. Think GPUs, think Xbox Series X. I'd rather go the slightly more expensive side, but I always say this console's such a nice alternative when it comes to maybe parents, maybe you have a younger kid, maybe you just want to have a console in your house, maybe you're traveling. It's always nice. And as well, when you consider the fact that the Series S doesn't have a disk drive, uses less RAM, and has a smaller SSD, although some of those things may not be as good in theory. At the end of the day, like if you just kind of you have to decide what you want. Like if you're someone who usually does a lot more streaming or uses xCloud, or just kind of more so deletes games maybe whenever you're done with it, kind of how I do, you can still kind of have a good run with it. It also does kind of feel more like smaller plastic chassis and stuff like that. It kind of makes sense in why it's just manufacturing quicker, it's easier and cheaper. And as well, you guys are probably going to say a lot too as well, there's just not as many scalpers. Because number one, the profit margin's not there. We even are seeing these really big retailers also just even putting deals, like I said, for those bundles and other very cheaper prices. And at this point, I think it's kind of nice. Although maybe Microsoft might lose some money in the production of it, once again, if they get people on the Xbox Game Pass ecosystem, at the end of the day, they're still making money. And as well, when it comes to scalpers too, thankfully scalpers are slowly kind of diving on down when it comes to the Xbox Series X, which will also hopefully get a lot more of those consistently on shelves, and a lot more of those consistently just able in your houses. The same thing with the Xbox Series S's. And although I do think a lot of people are also okay with that, like someone who bought maybe an Xbox Series S day one, and they saw the issues with selling out and botting, at this point they're probably pretty happy, because at 2 years later, they at least still have a next-gen console too as well. So it's kind of cool. We're also kind of, like I said, we're also seeing a lot of stuff a little bit more on the cheaper side. And a lot of folks as well, myself included, keep on thinking in the long term, the Xbox Series S's are better. It's better to have something rather than nothing. And I always kind of push this a lot, having some third world countries, say like India or China in certain regions, it's very nice for them to have a slightly cheaper product that they're able to go and take advantage of and utilize, because it gives people at least the option to go and buy and get more consoles and be in the Sony non-Sony ecosystem. So it's kind of cool to go and see. Like, I do like the idea of this, although the PlayStation 5 and Xbox still have a lot more issues in terms of all the semiconductors and everything else. At least people are getting different types of options and have other features to get to go and check out to as well. And we're also seeing even more stuff and rumors with the Xbox Series S Pro and other various things. So kind of give me your thoughts and comments down below. And every now and then the Xbox Series S kind of makes its way inside the actual YouTube channel itself. So make sure you guys are subscribed, the notifications on, as well for the brand new PlayStation 5 giveaway, and the Amazon links down below for the PS5 Digital Console Controller, Twitter and Twitch stream as well, link down below, Twitter giveaway down below. We got that Weeble, we got that Coinbase, and all that stuff. And I appreciate you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys up in the next video. Tomorrow. Love you guys.